All right, everyone. Friday morning. It's the final morning briefing of the week on Valentine's Day. No less, guys. We really appreciate everyone spending a little bit of their Valentine's Day with us three. I'm sure you definitely won't regret that. Definitely not better things you could be doing. Tony, how's things?
Very well, Hamish. Just before we came on here, we were talking about something and I just wanted to mark it and mention it. Journalism lost a bit of a football titan, Scottish football writer Paddy, who's based in England, big Dundee fan. Kevin will vouch for this. A wonderful, wonderful writer, but an even better human being. And I'll share that quick story. I met him once, and it was at Wembley when Fraser Forster made his debut for England. England against Chile, they lost 2-0. And I was sent down to cover it, and I'd never been to Wembley, didn't know the ropes. And it was all full of English journalists whom you knew. Paddy was the only Scottish guy and friendly face to me, and I went up and introduced myself. And the mark and class of the man, he said, "Hello, Tony, I'm very familiar with your work." Sat down, he'd never met me, and he treated me like an equal. And we spoke about many things, but one of the things that came up, Kevin, and you'll remember this, Celtic being gubbed 5-1 by Dundee at Dens Park in 1980. Yep. Spoke about that game. He was astounded by my knowledge about that game because he told me, "You were only 7 when that happened." I said, "Yes." Left me scarred emotionally. And his favourite player in the whole wide world and throughout football history was Alan Gilzean. And I killed myself laughing, and I said, Dundee made history in 61-62 because they had the only one-man Scottish Championship winning team, because they've got a wonderful song called Up With the Bonnets, and they all get a name check, but nobody sings any other words other than "We've got Thing Me and Alan Gilzean," and the two of us sang it, and we had a moment, and we had a right good belly laugh at it, and I think I was quids in with him from then on for the 15-20 minutes I spent in his company. And he was just, as you know, he was a fantastic writer, brilliant person, and my condolences to the Bartley family, because he's a sad loss, but I think everybody's obituary will be that he could write. My goodness, he could write. What a talent, but he was also a fantastic person, so I don't think you could have any more than that.
Yeah. A real sad loss, Kevin.
100%.
Yeah. Appreciate you sharing that story, Tony. Kevin, how are you?
Yeah, very well. Yeah. Just been chatting all week about the Bayern Munich game. It's amazing how many differences of opinion you can have about a game in which, we were routine, we were beaten, but not by as much as some of us had feared. But see the amount of opinions about various players' performances, and was there really hope, and could we have done this, and what about Greg Taylor, and do we need a bit more beef in the midfield? Mental.
Are you guys finding these days, this is a very general point, and I guess we do these videos, so maybe we are more aware of it than anything, but just the level of chat and discourse after every Celtic game is just huge. I guess it's always been like that, to be fair, but it just seems these days every single thing is debated, and virtually every single player's performance in every game is scrutinised, and we're discussing whether they're a flop or a total revelation. Because I mean, there's even players in the game in Wednesday like Rio Hatate and Arnie Engels, and I've seen people saying these players were brilliant. I've seen other people saying they were terrible. So it's a bit of a bizarre one to weigh up how I think we're all feeling after Wednesday. But what are we 40 odd hours on? Probably. Tony, how are you feeling?
I think that's the beauty of it all, to be honest. I think Celtic supporters want that discourse, and we come on, win, lose or draw, as the song says, and we give our opinions. I've always said that there's no right or wrong. And your opinion is your opinion. And I've always said that I make the point, I drive it home a lot, that I don't personally speak for the Celtic supporters. I speak for myself as a Celtic supporter, and what I am seeing, it might be vastly different to what someone else is seeing. That's the beauty of it all. But as long as we can have, intellectual discourse about it, I'm fine. So when it becomes vitriolic, and people start being personal towards players, towards journalists and stuff like that, I kind of bow out at that. I'm all for discourse. We have a broad church here. We flick a lot of comments up. I think myself and Ryan had a major difference of opinion on how Rio Hatate performed the other night. It's allowed. There is nothing wrong with that. It's actually very.
Thought you were both wrong, to be fair.
Exactly. Brilliant. Love that. So I'm all for that. I think it's great, and I think it just shows you the kind of measure of lots of Celtic supporters. As soon as a game's finished, they want to talk about it. They want to dissect every minutiae detail of it all, and that's why we exist as well, to let lots of people do that, and we hope that we do that to the best of our ability.
Yeah, we're obviously going to discuss Bayern Munich a little bit. I kind of want to look ahead as well, because we're at Friday. It's Tuesday's the second leg, so it's really not that long until we go into that. And the thing I really like about it is it's a really meaningful game. The tie isn't over, and we're only one little goal away from being level with them on aggregate. So am I starting to believe we're only at Friday, guys? God knows what I'm going to be like Tuesday morning, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And tomorrow as well, Kevin, back to league duty, Dundee United. It all continues to happen.
Yeah, Dundee United won't be straightforward. We should beat them, but we've drawn 0-0 with them at Tannadice, beat them 2-0 at Parkhead. But it's now getting to that stage of the season where you don't want to say the title's in the bag, but with each victory, you begin thinking, how many games would we have to lose in 3 months to be certain of the title? And I think of the intensity of that game against Bayern Munich, and you're thinking, well, when we play Rangers, there's 2 games that we've got left. I suppose if you think that the league is decided, the next big challenge is to get 6 points out of 6 against Rangers, home and away. Just to settle, just to let everybody know nobody can touch us in Scotland. So yeah, it's a happy place to be in, to be a Celtic supporter right now. I was fearful before the Bayern game because they are one of the top 5 club sides in the world. They're among the elite of the elite, and I hate it when we get beat. 5, 6, 7. We've had 2 or 3 sevens with a couple of 5s. We've had a 6 with Barcelona, a 6 by Atletico, and every time that happens, it's like seeing your child being beaten up, except you can't wade in and do anything about it. When you see Celtic getting torn apart, it's just this pain, because you're completely, utterly helpless to do anything about it, and you know what's happening. And I was fearing that just because of how good Bayern were. But even during that first half, I was, for all the possession Bayern had, how many actual chances did they have?
I think they had one Harry Kane chance at the back post, and that was it, I think, in terms of major chances.
And in the second half, we competed, and arguably you could say that we were more dangerous in the second half than they were. And so I'm wondering if that was the game plan, that if we got to half-time, not having conceded very many chances, then at some point, there's this narrative that Celtic only started, attacking after we went 2-0 down. I don't accept that. I think there was always a point in the game where Brendan Rodgers was going to unleash what we had on the bench. But I think that rested on us having reached a certain point without having conceded. And you know what? That the defensive performance, apart from Greg Taylor switching off at the very last minute of the first half, Celtic's defensive performance was very disciplined, very effective. It was like Atalanta. And yeah, it bodes well. You know, we're getting there. We're getting this Champions League thing sorted out. We're going in the right direction.
It was structured, disciplined and organised, Hamish, but you have to say Celtic have conceded 2 bread and butter goals when various Celtic players have switched off. And when you switch off against teams of that calibre, they are punishing you. You know, nobody near Harry Kane when he scores the second. You know, Greg Taylor's culpable. But Olise still had a lot to do, but my goodness, what a shot. And Harry Kane just does what he does best. Waltzes off. Well, there was no markers there, you know. So that's what Celtic have to learn as well. Because Bayern made mistakes too, but they were only punished once. And I felt that Celtic did come into it, you know, after it went 2-0. But when it goes 2-0, you did feel the worst for maybe 3 or 4 after that. But, you know, I think the game plan was to get in at half-time 0-0. But everything changed when Olise scored. Team top, everything. And then the other side of the restart, you know, you're 2-0 down and you have no alternative but to kind of, well, we need something from this. We need something to take to Germany. But I think it showed that even class teams, they give you chances. You just have to take them when they come along because you know fine well they'll punish you when they get the opportunity. And Harry Kane hits the side netting, Olise scores a brammer, and Harry Kane does what he does best and scores a second goal. So it was a game, funnily enough, where you thought the gulf in class would tell, but it ended up being a game of fine margins. Maida goes round the goalkeeper, can't find the angle. You know, you are a VAR penalty decision where I think VAR told the referee to go and have a look at it, but he stuck by his original decision. Most referees, when they go to the monitor, will overrule it and say it's a penalty. You know, you get a goal back. Alistair Johnson's cracked one in that Neuer saved. Had he gone low, you know, so you could have gotten a draw at the end of that. And it's given you hope. That's why you're feeling the way you do for Germany. Mission impossible and all that, mission improbable. But it's not to say that you can rule Celtic out of, you know, doing it, you know, performing some kind of miracle. And it would be up there with arguably one of the greatest results they've ever had in their illustrious European history. If they could pull this out the fire, it'd have to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely unlikely, but we've got a chance, and this is a Celtic team that are continually growing at that level. See, to be honest, like during the game, there was moments when it was a bit frustrating. First half when Bayern were keeping the ball, even though I was quite content watching it because they weren't really creating anything. But them just having the ball and then us giving the ball away when we got it sporadically was a bit frustrating. But see, like now, a couple of days on from the game, I look back at it and I'm like, I don't really have many bad things to say about the level of the performance. I just think it's a Celtic team that are still learning at Champions League level and are certainly learning at the top Champions League level. I mean, we need to remember that Bayern were basically the worst draw we could have got, alongside Real Madrid in this round, potentially PSG, but I'd say Bayern are better than them. So they're the second worst draw we could have got in the whole tournament. I think against virtually any other team other than Real Madrid, you know, that kind of performance possibly gets a win. Certainly, you know, I don't think we lose that game with that kind of performance. So I just think the Celtic team is going in a great direction. I was enthused by the way we finished the game. The fact that in previous years when Bayern got that second goal, we would have folded. We'd have folded under Ange Postecoglou. And I loved that guy, but you can't deny it because it happened loads of times. Late on in games, we tired. I think first time under Brendan Rodgers, That game would have got away from us as well. Even under Neil Lennon, you think back to Juventus 2012. So I think that was 2013. So I thought it was great that Celtic fought back. What does it mean for next week? It means that the tie is alive, and I can't wait for it. I can't wait to see Celtic. Probably our final game at Champions League level for this season, but it's been such a successful season. Just go and do the business next week and make it interesting at the very least. Yeah, I mean, Jason saying we probably showed Bayern Munich too much respect in the first 60 minutes. Quite possibly. I just think this Celtic team are learning, and I think the encouraging thing for me, as Brendan Rodgers has said after the game, we were a bit too passive there. So the players are going to be aware of that, and next week I think you try and get rid of that in your game. Clearly, we don't want to go gung ho like we did in Dortmund either, but yeah, we bring on next week. Tomorrow, though, will changes. Are you thinking, guys? That seems to be the feeling that we'll see a number of changes. Kevin, would you? I know you're saying Dundee United will be a tough game, and they are third in the league, but I sense that the manager's going to make a few changes.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll start with Yang. I wonder if Yang has earned a start. There's been signs before last Wednesday that he's why we signed him. He's a good player. He can play football. He's strong and he's fast and he's very, very skillful. And he came on and I thought he was great against Bayern. And given the way that Brendan Rodgers hasn't been afraid to change things up and to give some players a chance if he thinks they've earned it. I mean, obviously, he sets great store by players' attitudes and training. So I would expect him to start. I think Jota will probably start.
Yeah.
The big, I suppose the issue is, does he start with Maeda and the number 9, or does he stick with Ida? I'd want him to stick with Ida because we need our first choice striker, which Ida is, to feel confident, to feel loved, and to have an opportunity to go on a wee scoring streak. And actually, I thought he played well. I thought that in a few occasions the ball was getting to him in the first half. The ball was sticking to him. He was on his own up against two big defenders, and I thought he did fine. So I'd resist the temptation to drop Adam Ida. I don't think it would be good for him. He needs a few games. He needs to get a few goals. He's beginning to score a few. His confidence is coming back, and as both of you know, the number 9 position, being confident, having confidence, it applies much more to that position than any other position in the park.
Yeah. I think Ida will start tomorrow, Tony.
Yeah.
And I just have a feeling he might go with Maeda up front in Munich. It's just a wee feeling I get that could be wrong.
I think he got plenty of joy from that the other night, didn't he? When Yang, Jota, Schlupp all came on, there was an upsurge, wasn't there? An upsurge in urgency, there was an upsurge in tempo. And my own personal jury's still out in Yang, but I thought he was terrific when he came on the other night. He gave Celtic some real impetus.
Against Wraith. He was best game against Wraith. So.
Yeah, so we did say that. We spoke about in the aftermath of Wraith. We said hopefully he can use that confidence and use it as a platform. So I need to see more of that from Yang. So I think tomorrow we will get that opportunity, because I think he deserves that opportunity. And, Celtic are closing in on the title, so every player's going to play their part. Hopefully a treble. Hopefully every player will play their part. So it's another opportunity for him. I agree with Ida. Keep him up front. But I certainly think that Maeda will play through the middle on Tuesday night, because I think Maeda terrorised them and frightened them, gave them something else to think about. Because Bayern had kind of, I'm not saying they'd switched off, but they were 2-0 up, got what they came for, and then for the last 20 minutes realised we're in a game here. And I thought that Celtic could get joy with Maeda going up against Eric Dyer and Upamecano, and they did. But I like to Yang coming on, Jota coming on. I thought Slip was also very impressive too, and I'm playing him.
Very much so. Yeah,
I'm playing him in Germany.
Yeah. He's a big, powerful guy, which you'll need. And
someone made a really good point. I saw it earlier on my own channel. Brilliant point that he'll know Michael Elise from Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
So I mean that, and Elise would literally be up against him, right winger versus left back. So I don't know if Brendan Rodgers is aware of that, but if you're Jeffrey Slip, you're saying I've trained with this guy, I know him. Get me in that team to take him on.
He's also a big, physical, powerful presence that you're going to need in the Allianz Arena, right? For me, I think I've said it a few times that Celtic lack a bit of height, but a physical prowess, but a brawn. Going to need that on Tuesday night. So, again, tomorrow, does he come in? I would probably play him tomorrow as well.
What about in midfield? Maestro saying potentially could he play midfield and rest Callum McGregor?
He could. Because he's a jack of all trades, isn't he? He's played a lot of positions. But I don't see the manager resting Cal. I think he'd probably bring in McCowan, wouldn't he? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
McCowan will start.
Yeah, McCowan will start tomorrow, yeah.
I think Ralston will start, I think McCowan will start.
I think
Yang, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, know, and I think the team that played Wraith Rovers, there wasn't much wrong with that, was there? And even though he made 9 changes. And people were talking about like Scales and Dane Murray playing as well tomorrow. But
maybe a bit much for me. Like
you've got to realise you've got a game to win here. You have a game.
This is a team that's third top.
It's no mugs tomorrow. Like it's
that's what I mean. So you have to box clever in terms of your team selection. You can't go too gung ho with the changes. Yeah. So you need to sort of have your base solidified, i.e. defence. And then if you're going to make changes, for me, it's kind of cosmetic in terms of Ralston, fine. But you've got to keep more or less the status quo with the back four. And also in the midfield, just make tinker that. And then obviously, we've said there we want Ida. Yang's a certain starter, isn't he, for me?
Yeah.
And Kuhn, I would imagine.
I think Jota.
Or Jota, possibly, yeah. So, but you got to pick a team bearing in mind what you're up against on Tuesday night and what's at stake on Tuesday night. So, but I think he'll cater that to suit.
I feel all right about tomorrow. It's Dundee United are kind of the best of the rest, or is that Rangers that are the best of the rest? I don't know. But Dundee United are a couple of points ahead of Aberdeen. They're having a pretty good season, newly promoted, as you said, Kevin. They held us earlier on in the season. I just think we can make 4 or 5 changes tomorrow in certain positions and still have guys like Luke McCowan coming in. Like I feel like as much as still got a lot of work to do in the league. We are in a fortunate position. I want Celtic to absolutely, have everything in the tank for a shot on Wednesday night. Because, with all due respect, I think regardless of the result tomorrow, we're going to probably win the league. Obviously, we want to keep winning, but like that Bayern Munich game, I want a good shot at that. So I think he will make changes, but not too many.
Yeah, I was in Bayern's old Olympic Stadium in 2003 when we were beaten 2-1.
Magnus Hedman.
Dear, oh dear. There was about 9,000 Celtic fans there. Tony knows this, but at half time, we all just, I don't know where it came from, we all just burst into the Proclaimers 500 miles. And the rest of the stadium, the other 3 sides, because we occupied an entire one of their big banking terraces behind the goal. And everybody around the stadium, I could see all these German fans and families, because it's very much a family thing there, just taking pictures. And I was with David Lowe, and I'm sort of saying, why are we singing a Proclaimers song? this isn't the high piece, but it was still great. But until at that point, Celtic hadn't won a game in the Champions League. I don't think away from home, I don't think we'd even had a point. And we were up against a Bayern Munich team who had won the Champions League 2 years before in 2001, beating Valencia. So we played them for 60 minutes. I'm not saying we played them off the park, but we were considerably, by a considerable margin, the better team. We got a great goal by Alan Thompson. We were playing great football. You couldn't see where they were scoring. And then, of course, the expected last 20 minutes, you just want to hang firm. And Hedman just, oh dear, I'll never forget it. Because I'm thinking, that I've got a photograph in my iPhone of me and David, against the backdrop of the scoreboard. Bayern 0, Celtic 1 at half time. And I'm thinking, that was a season where we beat Lyon 2-0 at home, and it was the same group. And again, if it hadn't been for Big Bobo sticking his big arm up in the last minute against Lyon away from home, and we'd have been through to the quarter. Well, it was the quarterfinals then. It was. I don't think it was just 16. So that was that Bayern team. As I said, had won the Champions League. Great players all over the park. Brilliant old iconic stadium, which you would say is probably more intimidating than the Allianz. And Celtic played out their skin and more than deserved a draw. And I hope there's a sense of history. I hope, somebody in the Celtic backroom team shows them clips from that game. And even in the 3-0 game, we were beaten by them a few seasons ago in the Allianz. Celtic played well. I remember that game vividly. Celtic played well for large parts of that game. We were knocking it about. We created a couple of chances. So that last 20 minutes gives me hope for Tuesday. And the fact that there's the away goals don't count double in this occasion works in our favour, because one goal does it. And as I said, I think we've all agreed, out with the 2 goals, which were, the second one especially was schoolboy defending. Bayern just didn't create an awful lot of chances. Big. They weren't cutting us open. They weren't dragging us out of position and playing those, little passes in behind and peppering our goal with shots. So, we've got something to play for.
That's a big thing. We've got a game to look forward to. Tomorrow, first, Tony, as well, Dundee United. Yeah. So what's your thoughts on the next couple of games we've got coming up?
Listen, we've got to be professional as ever tomorrow. We're ticking them off. I believe it's 8 wins. 8 wins on the spin wins the title, right? Tomorrow against Dundee United, the countdown on that possibly. But play a team, as you say, make some changes, but enough to win that football match, comfortably. But then go to Germany and have a rip, and Roy Mackay scored twice that night, Kevin, by the way. Alan Thompson diving header, great header it was as well. Magnus Hedman's, Martin O'Neill was on, I think he was on Premier Sports the other night. Still hasn't gotten over the fact that Magnus Hedman made a rickets of it that night. But that's the closest Celtic have come to beating Bayern, never beaten Bayern in their history. But you look at it and you've got 90 minutes to score once, keep a clean sheet if you can, to get back in the tie. So you don't have to go gung-ho. This will be another game where you have to be structured, organised and disciplined, but at some point you're going to have to score. and win the football match to take it the distance. And
I was also encouraged by the fact in the last 10 minutes, Big Neuer is playing it long.
yeah.
I'd like to test him a bit more.
The reason why he's playing it long is because he's seen what Maeda has been doing to his two centre halves. He just doesn't he wants to minimise the amount of time Maeda is running around that part of the field.
And he took a chance a few times. He was nearly caught. And it's the way he plays. And I think, and I said that I think there was joy for Celtic up against Dyer and Upamecano, and they got a bit of joy, and that gives you hope, that you can go there and do something. I think there'll be a moment on Tuesday night when Celtic are winning this football match.
Really?
I'm not sure they will win the match come the end, but I think there'll be a moment in this match when Celtic will be winning, and I want to see how Bayern adapt to that. I really do. I can see them scoring first and swinging that pendulum pressure back. I've got confidence in them to do that, but whether they can hold on is another matter altogether, because I did watch Bayern dominate the match for a good hour or so, and as much as they weren't creating chances, the way they protected the football and held the football was a joy to watch at times. And I'm making the point that that's what you're aspiring to, but I see Celtic getting better and better in terms of, the RB Leipzig performance was terrific. Everything came together that night. The defensive display in Atalanta. So Celtic have adapted. You mentioned as well, Celtic would never have adapted under Ange. They would have just kept playing the same way and probably get Muller the other night. I think
Thomas Muller.
Yeah, Thomas Muller. I think that's fair to say. But I've watched a Celtic team grow in this competition and adapt the way they're playing to certain situations. And even without the ball the other night, when Bayern had it, Celtic were still pretty difficult to break down. And it's the goal right on half-time that changes the complexion of everything of that evening. Because Celtic's MO on Wednesday night was to hang in there for as long as they could. And then at one point flick the switch and say, right, let's go. Let's have a period of pressure of our own in the game if we can. And that's what I was talking about with certain players protecting the football. I'm not saying the poor games per se, but when you do not protect the football and keep it when you've got it and give instant possession back, there's nothing more frustrating, because we have players who can keep the football and are better than what they showed the other night. That was the point I'm driving home.
But like how often I feel like I've been watching Celtic forever and we've struggled to keep the ball away from home in Europe. So yeah, we'll wait and see. Gordon bringing up a point a few minutes ago. Bayern have Bayer Leverkusen, the German champions, and I think second place this season. Big game for them this weekend. So they're going to be going full pelt for that one. Okay, guys, we'll leave it there. As I say, Dundee United tomorrow. So I take it you and Ryan are on tomorrow, Tony, or is John Ryan in? Good, very good. Well, stay tuned for that. We'll have loads on the website as well, celticway.co.uk. So yeah, Dundee United tomorrow. We can go 16 points clear. Rangers go to Hearts on Sunday, by the way, everyone, and Hearts are in decent form. So it probably means Rangers will win 3 or 4-0. But we'll see how that goes. Okay, everyone, thanks again.